another senior florist, and Alice Huang. Both the girls attend performing there. It was a wonderful performance at the NJ Pack. So shout out to our music teacher and sponsor and helping students to go through the auditions. And I hope that more students could go that opportunity and perform the chance to perform at that beautiful stage in coming years. So thank you.
Thank you, Shaming. I emailed Kathy, and so hopefully we will get that training. I mean, we tried asking for it last year, but they still weren't finalized with it. So
right, yeah.
So I'll take care of it.
She mentioned her schedule pretty tight, and just remind us the July 1st is the deadline.
I know. So, but we have to start before that.
Yeah, we need to start before that. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Seeing none, can I have, this is the point of the meeting where we have questions and comments from the public or gratitude moments. Sorry, our auditor was a little taller than you.
Barbara Singer, 5 Deerfield Road. I will start with a gratitude comment, being that I just came from a cookie booth sale at Bellworks. It's making me think about how the Board of Ed does, like all the Girl Scout troops meet here after school, which we are grateful for because it's very convenient for the parents, and it does aid in our ability to increase our membership. And it does help educate the girls as far as financing, especially with cookie sales, marketing, sales. We had 95% petition rate with the Girl Scout troops this year, which was amazing increase from last year. So we do appreciate your letting us have these meetings throughout the schools here. So I also wanted to thank Principal Scalacci. He did have 3 Class 3 officers come to the PTSO meeting. It is the 3rd time this year PTSO has had security personnel available to answer parent questions. I know, Dr. McGarry, you got Class 3 officers to attend the meeting that Mr. Gale was to get also, but the weather wiped all that out, so I hope we can get a new date soon to have all of them together as well. And then I just wanted to say to Mr. Reddy and Ms. Collins, I appreciate your comments about the HIV reports and looking not just at the ones that were substantiated, but the ones below that level, because that is where it all starts. And if we want prevention, that's what we have to look at. And it's the same logic Mr. Wall was using with respect to the audit, where we would tend to look at what are the recommendations, but it's a very practical comment, I think, that you made as well. Let's look at right under that and see what they're talking about there, so we can prevent any future recommendations having to be made. So I thank the 3 of you for those common sense approaches and for sharing your thoughts with us. Which brings me to my last comment, because I do like hearing all of that from you. And I think what I heard earlier in the meeting was telling Mr. Reddy to email his thoughts to Ms. Amorati. And I kind of didn't really like that, because I do like to hear what's on their minds, because it's often what's on our minds. So I appreciate the transparency Mr. Reddy is shooting for there, and I do hope you will all continue. I hope you don't mind your reports along, because, you know, frankly, I don't go back and read everything that gets posted. It's kind of good to come here and get the synopsis. So thank you all for your time. And
I wish you would read all those notes, because our committee chairs spend a tremendous amount of time putting those together. So
we all do when we can, but we all
that.
Can't always.
And Dr. McGarry is always sending out our...
The brief reports, you know, kind of give us a heads up if something is in there that we might want to go read further. So it's helpful, but maybe not the only thing people should be looking at, but the reality is, it is something that is relied upon, which is why you do all this here. So thank you.
Can I speak to that?
okay. Okay.
No.
I
You
mean,
want
if
to
you
say
would like
something
to...
to me, I'm right here. Please
Oh, no,
do.
no, it was okay,
I'm
man.
like, or,
No, you can say something. I
No,
really,
all
I
I was
don't know
going to
what...
say is I have no problem, of course, we should talk about this here. All I was saying was I would also like to talk about it before, too, to get the discussions going. It
Right.
didn't mean
oh, I
don't
wasn't
talk
addressing
about
that
it.
comment. I was just addressing the fact that, what it is that you want to look at.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't addressing that, talking about it before, or whatever that was. Okay.
Any other comments?
Debbie Brew, 15 Cindy Lane. I had to jot my grateful aggravation on my notes before I would forget. So I am grateful for especially the full committee reports, so thank you. Because most people don't have any idea what is being discussed in committee reports, so there may be no reason to go searching the website in their busy schedules for a committee report. However, they are listening to the meeting in their car or during their commute or at home, and they're also now watching. Thank you. I am also grateful for board members like Mr. Reddy and Mr. Wall continuously bringing up concerns and questions so that the public also can hear those, because they may also have the same concerns and questions, which I do on the homework. And Jamie, with the bullying, I'm glad you're looking into that, because I think it sounds great. We only have one HIV, but it takes a lot to get an HIV, and there's a lot of other bullying going on that needs to be addressed. And it seems that you're continuously discouraging the board members from having questions in committee reports, and that they should be emailing them, and that they should be discussing it before, and you all get the notes, and why isn't this being brought up? And I keep hearing that more and more over the last 6 months, especially more than ever, that the board members seem discouraged to share their comments and questions, especially during committee reports. And I really hope that your position on that changes, because it really prevents transparency, and it's very disappointing. The past couple months, I've tried not to speak about it, but it keeps coming up.
I'm happy to
And I have
respond to that, because there's a few things. One of the things that I've done as board president, and I think people have been on the board with me since that time, was to encourage more transparency. So let me explain the committee, how we run through the committee now. And so everyone who's listening to me is clear. We have our standing board meetings. The week prior is when all the committee meetings occur. They go at least 1.5 hours to some 3 hours a night. At those committee meetings, we have board members and we have one set of committees where 8 board members split amongst it. And you can see with the Buildings and Grounds report and Budget and Finance, they are given a lot of information upon which we can take action. And it will support every resolution that's on this agenda. If you recall, there was one board meeting where we had to stop for an executive session, and it was because the resolution items that were on our agenda that night hadn't been through committee. So we broke. My goal has been to encourage greater transparency so that everyone in the public knows what we are acting on. And I use the committee structure and this board together. We use it to make sure every item that is voted upon by this board has first been through committee, has first been discussed. If it's not ready to be presented to the public and on a board agenda, it won't get posted to the agenda. It will be subject to further discussion by the board. So that's how we run the committees. And then what we're trying to do, and I remember Joe used to always be on us to try to get the committee notes out, is to get the committee notes out as early as possible so that people who aren't on those committees can ask those questions. And so that's how we run. So every item you see on our agenda has been through a 1.5 hour to 3 hour meeting. And then if also Dr. McGarry, he emails us when you all get your notes on Sunday, you get a note from Dr. McGarry, we get one on Saturday or Sunday as well. That includes a lot of information that might relate to our agenda items or other school-related items so that we can be as informed as possible, so that the public can be as transparent as possible on anything that we are doing as a board. So my goal has been to encourage greater transparency, not less. And I hope my feedback that I've received from the board is that that's what we're accomplishing. As far as the information, when I do say to Mr. Reddy, and Pete, I'm sorry to call you out on this, but why didn't you say something about homework earlier? It's because I've had other board members come to me, Ms. Brew, and ask me to do just that. Because they're putting in a lot of time, they're attending a lot of meetings, and they've asked me to make sure that I almost support them in terms of making sure we as a board are doing the work that we need to do before we come here once a month and act on items that are very important to all of us. So, as board president, I have to adhere to some of the direction given to me by my board. I don't intend to do it to discourage transparency. Mr. Reddy will tell you, I will usually pick up the phone if he calls me, if he has a question. I know a lot of the other committee chairs do it. We are doing everything we can to come to this board meeting prepared and ready to act.
Okay.
And and be able to answer your questions. There's another component, and that's what I've been trying to use the committee process as well, and Dr. McGarry's reports to the board, is to make sure that when we're all walking around on the streets and everyone asks us questions like, why are you guys doing this, or what's going on here, we speak as one voice. We speak as a board. And that's it, and that's all we can. So I don't ever want anyone on this board to be walking around on the streets, in the ShopRite, at the park, at Bell Works, at a Girl Scout meeting, not knowing what's going on. I want everyone to feel comfortable. And if they don't feel comfortable, and at a committee meeting, if there's information shared with us at a committee meeting, it's not ready to get this to the agenda, it's not getting on the agenda. Because that's how important I believe, and our committee structure should work for us. And in light of the tremendous burden that's imposed upon us in terms of a lot of the information that we have to delve into as a board to be able to come here and do what we need to do once a month, the committee structure is the best way possible that we can act, as far as I can know. I know Mr. Wall, he likes the committee of the whole, but there's so much going on, and at times we can act as a committee of the whole. The ad hoc committee, there was a lot of I didn't come out at a board meeting and explain everything that people were saying to me, because I can't on a lot of items. But we created the ad hoc committee gave us an ability to sit down as a committee, as a board, and start looking at things a little bit more carefully with a closer lens. And that's what the committee structure gives us the ability to do. So while we might not be sitting here and rehashing the hour-and-a-half meetings at a board meeting, we're doing the best we can to convey to the public what we're doing, and also let you know that what we've discussed here, what you see, what we're voting on tonight, has been fully vetted so that everyone's comfortable. That has always been my goal, because that's been some of the concerns shared by me, by the board.
Okay. Thank you for explaining how committee works. I already knew that, but for everybody else listening, I still stand by my comment that when you ask Mrs. Amorati, she can do a summary in the future and doesn't have to give a full report. It's great that the 9 of you know exactly what's going on in committee. You could share your questions back and forth, but it's also very informative for us to know. And so I know what you're saying, how it comes to an action item, but if Pete had emailed her his question about homework, then I would appreciate if you don't want them asking questions to the public that elected all of you so they can hear it, then include Pete's question in the report. I had a question about homework. Where are we now?
And I think a lot of our committee chairs, when they get questions or comments, they do try to address that in the context of their committee report. And there's even times on information that I've gotten, on Mondays we have a leadership meeting, Monday or Friday, it depends. And in leadership meeting, Mrs. Lou and I, we did it, and this year Eileen and me, any questions or comments or concerns that have been shared to me by board members, it's discussed then. If there's any update that's needed, it goes out. I mean, it's just a constant.
Okay. I will just say.
And we try to, and going to your point.
Yeah, because
I
interrupted you the whole time that you spoke, but go ahead.
And we try to tailor our comments in our committee chair reports that are posted publicly based on information that we receive.
Okay, but still, every month I come, and every month things are brought up, and they are admonished to not bring them up again. And I will just say that I would not like to hear that anymore as a member of the public, and I would like all these questions, whether they're emailed or not, to be included, because I am interested in the things that they've asked about, and I'm grateful, since I elected these people, that they are asking on my behalf.
think the bigger thing is not to hide behind a committee, the perception that we're hiding behind committees. That's the issue. And I could see that because all of a sudden, you know, it's a $56 million budget and there's a lot of decisions that we and I have to make. I think the public healthy discourse is good. I mean,
Well,
to think
assuming
we're just going to button everything up and committee's done and so we move forward and organize, just not that way. So I'm just saying, as long as we don't hide behind the committee,
I don't think
perception
anyone's hiding, and like I said, Mr. Reddy, I've gotten, and if any board member would like to share on this point, I have heard from many board members after a meeting about the frustration of people not reading it's obvious sometimes that people haven't read the agenda, and that's not the impression I want to leave with the board, with the public.
Yeah, there's no problem talking about things here, but I feel like if people aren't reading the notes and are asking the first question here, then I feel like it's disrespectful. I take a lot of time to put notes in that are really good and detailed. I don't want to find out about an issue here. At least tell me before, and that means we could start working on it. Then we could talk about it here too, but let's all work together, not bring something up for the first time in a grandstanding kind of way. It's very difficult for me to deal with that, to be honest with you, and I think that that's happened a lot. But I agree, Ms. Brew, with the transparency. There's no problem talking about things, but let's work behind the scenes too, because there are a lot of board members who put a lot of effort into this and don't want a first question. It feels like, why you didn't talk to me before? Not because I'm insulted, but if those things are really important to you, just be working with us all the time, not just at the board
What if
meeting.
something just comes up to
That's
them?
different,
Because
Steph. That's different.
it just dawned on them. It's just like,
But that-
you
I don't
shouldn't get a
find-
slap on the hand for that.
No, but I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think that's what's happening, but I appreciate
You're
you
sitting
saying.
up there though, and that's what it appears.
But I am telling you that that is not what is happening. It's people not reading their notes. I would have no problem, but to talk about it for the first time like it's some great brainstorm, a lot of them are not.
Sometimes things just
But
come to you, like Mike said, it just came to him. So
Yeah, that
I'm
I
not
don't
gonna
have a
add-
problem with that.
That was my comment, so.
I think it's unfortunate, though, if you believe that every comment that comes from a board member is an attempt at grandstanding.
I didn't say, Mike, I didn't say that at all.
But you did suggest
I
that
did
in
not
saying
suggest, I
grandstanding.
did not say that everybody grandstands.
I thought that's what you just said, though.
I said grandstanding happens. I didn't say that everybody
Well,
on
I
the board,
mean,
because
I-
this is an issue. It's very, very frustrating to me.
Okay, but, unfortunately, politics is a little messy.
This is not supposed to be, yes, we're voted members, but I thought this is supposed to be not politics. We're
Well, I
supposed
don't
to be
mean politics in the
focusing, but
sense
I
of
feel that
Democrat,
it is.
Republican. I mean politics
Okay,
in the
Mr.
traditional sense.
Stockel and Ms. Collins, one at a time.
All right, well, I'm just simply saying that I'm just simply making the point that a process. I've done this for 9 years now, and I've also seen other governing entities do it. I think that's, first of all, let me say that I think Vicki's doing the right approach in trying to streamline a process and to try to focus our attention on the most important things. So I'm not against what she's doing. I think she's doing the right approach. I believe having a committee structure to be able to do work that is basically, in many cases, nuts and bolts, is the right way to go. I have seen it done in multiple ways over the last 9 years on this board, and I think this is an effective approach. I also believe that what Deb is making the point of, and I've certainly felt it sometimes as well, is as board members, we are not robots. There are moments when we think of things that come up as we're listening. I read every note that gets to me. I read all the notes. I read all the messages. I send emails to most people when they have questions. That still doesn't take away from the fact that I may come up with an idea while I'm sitting here listening to someone say something that I think makes sense in the relevancy of discussion. So, for example,
And that would never, and that wouldn't stop you from having
I'm not
a
saying that you
conversation.
would. I'm just simply putting into context what I think
And I
Deb
haven't.
is saying. Excuse me?
And I haven't stopped you from saying things.
Well, I mean, there are
Or
times
when
when
I get
feel-
or when I get an email, I'm going to bring this up in public.
I have often made it clear what I'm going to talk about ahead of time and try to telegraph, because I do want to at least give people some sort of heads up about what's on the top of my mind. But I'm also simply saying that at times, board members may have ideas that pop in their heads as they're
That's
in the
fine, yeah.
And, we shouldn't
Maria
discourage
Monti?
that.
Yeah, in regards to curriculum instruction questions that have come up in the past, from a different point of view, is we're receiving questions that are great questions at times. It would be nice to have talked about it previously so that we could actually provide an answer. Sometimes those questions are put out there that have an answer, but it would be nice had we had them. With C&I, it's very specific what we're talking about. It'd be nice to have them ahead of time, just so we could give an answer and supply that in public and help answer people's questions. So sometimes having the questions in advance is just helpful for us to inform the people and give more information to the public. So that's just kind of looking at it from a different point of view.
But if I'm the public, so years ago we discussed a rotating schedule, which went off great. I think we discussed 5, 6 years, 7 years, whatever it was. If I'm a public person going, the hell are they doing for 7 years trying to figure out a rotating schedule? Get it done. And then it got done and it's been spectacular, right? So with homework, if I'm a public person going, okay, they talk about this a lot. Nothing seems to be changing. That's the concern I have, because I sat on that C&I committee last year, because for the first 4 years on the board, I did not sit on the C&I committee, and I was going, the heck are they doing on the C&I committee? Because I'm not hearing it, and now, you know, I can only speak to my household. Homework's not really a problem. One kid goes fast, one kid doesn't. It's okay. But I got to believe in other families that's still a concern out there. And if we're going to address it, we should address it instead of just, you know, we should know what the problem is. It shouldn't take this long. That was my only thought. Just because I know we talked about it last year. So I'm glad you guys are working it, which is good. I trust that. So, but I know as a, you know, the public comment or the discourse is healthy, because then at least the public knows, okay, there is, you know, it's happening, instead of going, okay, it's written on a report, not everything's on the report, because we can't put everything on there, right? So that's it.
Ms. Collins, you have-
No, I just wish that, certainly talk about it here, but beforehand, like Ms. Briamonte said, let's discuss it beforehand so we can start working on it and work on it in committees, and then we'll bring it up and we'll tell everybody where we're at. That's all. Not to first bring it up here. Everybody can, you know, talk about whatever is wrong and, you know, be a hero. And I'm not saying that you're doing that, but that is what I sometimes believe is going on. So I just would appreciate us talking about it beforehand and then bringing it up at the meeting.
And the thing about, you know, trying to help address the public's concerns, I mean, first of all, I would love to see, it's great that we have people here, but it'd be great if people had questions about the homework, they're more than welcome to come. These meetings are posted. I would love to see this room packed. I would love to see more people take an interest in it. So if they have questions and concerns, that's amazing, and I wish they would come and actually tell us that here. No one's telling people they can't come and ask questions about homework if they feel like they're not getting answers they're looking for. I mean,
Tell you why they don't come. They're discouraged. They're discouraged to come because it's a constant question of this organizational chart. And if they have a problem, they're not comfortable speaking to their teacher, their principal. Too bad, because that's the order, and that's the comments I hear, and I know that's how I felt early on in my years. Is there was always a lot of discouragement from getting to this level. So people don't have time to come. A lot of people listen to the audio. A lot of people listen to the audio. And now we have video, which is better. So,
and then as soon as people email us, I always forward it to wherever it needs to go. So we're, you know, the emails we do receive from the public, they are read, they're forwarded. If I need to get a response out to the board, I get the response out to the board, or Dr. McGarry does. So in any way that the public does have questions about it, it does get, and even if like someone,
you should be encouraged.
and if some people, like for instance, if someone came today and said, we have a question about homework, it would be put right to C&I for further discussion with the administration. I mean, that's what we're trying to do.
I'm just saying, so that's why.
Ms.
No,
Collins?
but with the whole honors eligibility policy, I think we got far, but I think what happened was there were a lot of people here saying we got to do something. I'm not saying, you know, like it would be great.
So what do we do? There's too many people? There's not enough people?
I think that, you know, it would be great if people would, you know, speak up.
I think they did about homework for a long time, and then they just,
Okay.
you know,
No, but it's good to know because.
No pun intended.
Singer?
You just, Barbara Singer, you can remind me about that whole honors thing. And from what I recall, there were parents who, previous to the big crowds coming,
Yeah.
had raised issues about the honors. And when it was just a few of them, it wasn't getting addressed, and it really wasn't until it became a big thing.
Yeah.
So maybe if parents felt they were getting their issues more addressed when it was just here and there, you know, that would help too. But I just thought of that. I think what I was trying to say before was just even like when Ms. Collins wanted to respond to me, you told her no, and that's the kind
Well,
of thing
one of
I
the
don't like
things
to
we've
see.
talked about, Ms. Singer, is that, and I kind of keep it loose here, but there's, to try to make sure no one's talking over anyone, it's good to request, you know, you look at the chair and you say you recognize that board member. That's all, just to make sure everyone's
Yeah, but you said no to her when she said, "Can I?"
Well, because it's really, so I'm the chair of the committee of the board, and I should be responding to your questions on behalf of the board, or Dr. McGarry will, or
Well,
legal question.
If that's how the board wants to run it, I don't agree with that, because I do have questions for people individually, and I want to hear from them, but that is kind of a similar thought to when you were talking, when Debbie was up here, you said something about like if any of the board members run into us at a Girl Scout thing or out in the grocery store, like you should all have, you know, like one response if we're asking a question. In all the years I've been in this town, it's not how it's done. You know, if I speak to Lori or whoever I run into, I've spoken to almost all of you, even if you're Lori, because you're new, but over the years on individual topics, and you have different opinions, and I talk to you individually because I want to know your individual opinions. I don't want to be out and you're all just giving me the same answer on every
Well,
topic.
that's different.
That doesn't make sense to me as a
I'll
parent
distinguish
here.
it for you. If it's on an opinion idea, I'm talking about factual information regarding the board, about what we're doing as a district. That needs to be accurate. And that's where I'm saying we need to speak as one voice. If people have different opinions about
Well, if it's
honors-
a fact, you have one voice, because the fact is the fact. So speaking with one voice to me implies you're talking more of an opinion or a judgment thing. The facts are the facts, you should all have the same facts.
It depends
Other
on
than
the-
that, you should be able to voice your own opinions to us.
It's about
on the
making
topic.
sure that the public has accurate information about what the district, that's what I was speaking of. As it relates to an opinion, I can give you an example. There could be different opinions on how many people we should let into honors. Should everyone get it, not people, that could be happen. But in the end, we adopt a policy or there's a procedure on that. We don't do anything, but if we did, but because it's not part of our purview. That's not, so, but in the end, it would be based on a 5-person, 5-4 vote. At that point, the board speaks, and then we have to move on to the next item. We can't try to change something. You could change something by 5 votes.
Right,
No,
but if they bump into me at a Girl Scout event, I still want to know, well, I didn't agree with that whole thing, this is how I really feel, and that's what's going on here all these years, and that's okay.
Like I said,
I don't want them
I
to
just
be
want you to know
discouraged.
like how the waiver process works, where how do you do it, what's the steps, where you should look.
Yeah, no, we know all
The chain
that.
of command.
That's not the issue. The issue is
Or chain of command. like-
us wanting to hear their opinions and their questions, so that's all I have to say.
Thanks. Anything else? Okay. There will be no executive session required, so can I have a motion to adjourn? Move. Second. Show of hands. Thank you, everyone.